In this video, hang on, sorry, producer's in the air. We need to troll first. Oh, hang on, sorry. Apparently we need to play a quick clip and then I'll explain what's going on today.
Founder of Nikola Motors facing years in prison following his conviction on fraud charges. He promised to revolutionize the auto industry, but was found guilty of misleading investors.
I'm not sure what that's got to do with today's video, in which we feature a real truck that isn't a pusher, that real customers have taken delivery of, that's actually running on batteries, that has energy density that doesn't defy the laws of physics, from a legitimate company that isn't a fraud, doesn't do any patent trolling, and certainly wasn't founded by a liar, a con man, and an incredible example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. So in this video, I'm going to be reacting to and adding some commentary on a CNBS mini documentary about whether or not the Tesla Semi lives up to the hype. Oh wait, hang on, sorry, fucking producer in my ear today, guys. Apparently we've got another clip to cue, hang on.
This morning, a billionaire founder found guilty of defrauding investors for his $3.3 billion company with technology that didn't exist.
We've built something that no one else thought was possible.
Trevor Milton, the 40-year-old founder of electric truck manufacturer Nikola, convicted by a federal jury Friday of 1 count of securities fraud and 2 counts of wire fraud. The jury finding he lied to investors about the progress his company had made in producing zero-emission 18-wheel trucks fueled by electricity or hydrogen, now facing decades in prison.
This truck is by far the most state-of-the-art truck ever built in history. This thing fully functions and works, which is really incredible.
Prosecutors saying Trevor Milton is a con man. He lied to investors to get their money, plain and simple.
For every doubter out there that said that there's no way this is true, how can that be possible? We've done it.
Milton founding the company 6 years ago in a Utah basement with no engineering training, seemingly positioned to be the next Elon Musk. After a successful stock market run, Milton going on a spending spree, reportedly spending over $80 million in 6 months, purchasing a Gulfstream jet and a multi-million-dollar home in Turks and Caicos. Nikola shares value eventually surpassing Ford Motor in June 2020. But soon after, an investment firm accusing Milton of making false claims, using this video as an example, showing a truck rolling down a hill to make it look like a working prototype. Prosecutors saying its truck was really a General Motors vehicle with Nikola's logo on it, and that the company produced videos of its trucks concealing the flaws.
The closest it ever came to driving was when a group of Nikola engineers took it to the top of a hill and rolled it down so it could be filmed for a commercial.
I'm sorry guys, I think I'm going to have to fire my producer. Why are we showing clips of Teabag Milton getting done for fraud, convicted of fraud after lying to investors about an electric semi-truck? It's got nothing to do with the topic of today's video. And now, from a real moron, that's Trevor Milton, just to make sure that everyone's absolutely clear. Trevor Milton is an actual moron, literally one of the dumbest motherfuckers on earth. An incredible example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. To a real electric semi-truck.
In Modesto, California, some of the very first Tesla semis are hitting the roads.
The Tesla that you can see behind us is fully operational.
Wait, so it's not a pusher? It's a real truck?
They're running up and down the road within a 400-mile radius, delivering product to all of our distribution locations and to our customers.
Bill Gates taking a jab, voicing some concerns over some of Tesla's new products. What's that all about?
Well, look, Tesla's down at 15% at its session lows this morning. So, yeah, we have a long-running dispute between the two billionaires, which might not be helping things. The latest with Bill Gates casting doubt on Tesla's plan to get into long-haul trucking. Gates writing in his blog that the problem is that batteries are big, they are heavy. Even with big breakthroughs in battery technology, electric vehicles will probably never be a practical solution for things like 18-wheelers, cargo ships, and passenger jets. Gates says maybe biofuels are better instead as a possible solution to commercial trucks. Now, Musk wants to ramp up production of the Tesla semis, a commercial truck with a range of 500 miles, and he already has big companies lining up for these Tesla semis, including Pepsi, FedEx, Walmart, Cisco, and UPS. And we know that the two billionaires don't always see eye to eye. That includes on the coronavirus, with Musk calling the panic overblown. Gates, though, has warned about the possibility of a world-changing pandemic now for several years. And Musk has also trolled Bill Gates on Twitter, calling him underwhelming and saying that the rumors of a relationship between the two are not true.
I thought I'd just provide that valuable context. Bill Gates, a couple of years ago, essentially saying that electric semi-trucks aren't viable. Maybe we should use biofuels instead. what are the odds that Bill Gates happens to have some investments in companies attempting to produce biofuels? Don't think about that too much. But for a supposedly intelligent man, Bill Gates says some dumb shit. What's the saying? Don't bet against Elon. In the case of Bill Gates, I think the advice would be don't believe the dumb shit your supposedly intelligent friends tell you about things and just parrot what they've said without doing your own thinking. There's literally no way Bill Gates himself did the numbers and then deduced electric semi not viable, not going to happen. Instead, he's had enough supposed intelligent people in his ear saying it's not possible, bro, and or he's just so blinded by his hypothetical investments in alternative fuel sources. Then again, it's not like Bill Gates has ever pushed things that he may have had financial incentives to push, especially not in the last 2 or 3 years. Moving on.
Use them the same way you would see any traditional Class 8 vehicle delivering product.
PepsiCo, which owns Cheetos, Doritos, and other Frito-Lay products, pre-ordered 100 back in 2017. Walmart and FedEx have also placed pre-orders, but Pepsi was the first customer to take delivery of the new truck.
PepsiCo owns one of the largest private fleets in North America, and that's one of the reasons we have partnered with Tesla. We have the 15 in Modesto that we're launching, and then we have 21 in Sacramento, and then we are working plans for the additional units up to the 100.
First announced in 2017, the Semi has been one of the longest delayed products in Tesla's history.
What makes the Tesla Semi so different, and really Elon Musk's introduction of it, is he really brought the awareness to the broader public. He made trucking sexy.
And it could also be its vehicle with the biggest impact.
Even though trucks are only a small portion of all the vehicles operating on California's roads, they are responsible for the vast majority of carcinogenic diesel particulate matter.
Although it's only 1% of vehicle production, it's 20% of vehicle emissions.
Very important point. Semi-trucks aren't particularly sexy. A lot of consumers, the kind of person who might buy a Tesla vehicle themselves, most consumers probably don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about electric semis. But as we just heard, they have an outsized impact. Unlike a personally owned vehicle that spends most of its time parked at work, parked in your home garage, or just parked somewhere else rather than being used, semi-trucks are in much more constant use. In addition, it's not just CO2 emissions, but the particulate emissions, the stuff that will fuck your health up. You guys don't know, living near a major highway, a motorway, etc. is incredibly bad for your health as a direct result of particulate emissions. So Tesla Semi provides a double whammy.
And it's over a third of all the particulate emissions.
The need for alternatives to diesel is steadily rising as stricter emission regulations are established.
In California, at the ports, you're not going to be able to use an ICE engine truck in the near future.
Just for the record, I am not a fan of governments forcing people to not buy this or not do this. As I've pointed out trillions of times, approximately. EVs are now a commercial inevitability. There is no need to force companies or force consumers to use this or stop using this or make this or stop making this. For example, electric semis. These things are money printers. They're much cheaper to recharge than to refuel a diesel semi. Much cheaper to own and operate. Much lower maintenance costs. Significantly lower. To the point where owning an electric semi could potentially save you 6 figures per year, paying for itself in just a few years. Any companies who have competent employees who actually know how to use a calculator and or a spreadsheet, who are aware, realize that it is an absolute no-brainer to transition their fleet of semis ASAP to fully electric vehicles. These things pay for themselves within just a few years, and then it's fucking cream. The same will soon be true of electric vehicles, which are approximately at price parity now with comparable internal combustion engine vehicles, and already significantly cheaper to own and operate. Most consumers, let's just be honest, aren't smart enough to actually do that math. Those who do have already figured it out. It's cheaper today to buy a Tesla Model 3 or Model Y over a lifetime of ownership than a Toyota Camry, for example. But soon, the purchase price on these vehicles will be cheaper than a comparable ICE vehicle, and then much cheaper because there's still a new technology, costs are declining predictably over time. By 2035, the internal combustion engine vehicle, for passenger vehicles for example, will be long dead. There'll still be some on roads, at least if they're allowed to be, but no automotive manufacturer will be producing them and selling them new anymore. A similar thing is going to happen with diesel trucks. It is absolutely unnecessary, and I must underscore this, it's entirely unnecessary for governments, for states, for anybody to be legislating the use or the discontinuation of certain products in the automotive industry. This would be like banning the sale of dumb phones, of Blackberries, a few years after the iPhone launched, with those bans to come into effect 10 or 15 years after iPhone is launched. No one's going to be using these things anyway, you don't need to ban them. Alright, rant over, but I needed to cover that. Just fucking insane. It's my personal belief the government should stay the fuck out of everyone's business as much as possible. and is absolutely unnecessary for California to be banning diesel trucks at ports by any point in the future, because all the companies that use diesel trucks will have realized, oh, we'd have to be dumb to keep using these things now that there's electric vehicles that are significantly cheaper to own and operate. Let's switch our whole fleet. Just in case you don't know, 2035 is more than a decade from now. It's already financially suicidal to keep operating a fleet of diesel trucks when you can buy compelling electric semis instead. You know what I don't think California's going to ban? Taking a shit on the sidewalk or shooting up fentanyl. Well, I don't even know if you shoot up fentanyl. How do you take... Anyway, I'm sure that they're not going to ban that by 2035. Tent cities will remain, but no more diesel trucks, as they're called. By the way, for those that don't know, outside of the United States, I think most parts of the world refer to a semi as a truck, FYI.
Electric is an ideal solution for that.
But the launch of the new electric truck hasn't been without issues. There have been a few sightings of the semi breaking down around Northern California.
We can have a concept vehicle, it can look great on stage, it can look really compelling and exciting and talk about a whole new future. The realities are quite different.
Welcome to the Tesla Semi Truck event. I hope you like what you see. We're confident that this is a product that is better in every way from a feature standpoint, that wins on economics against diesel trucks in a worst case scenario, and that defeats rail in a convoy scenario.
At the time, Musk said the semi would go into production in 2019 and made other promises about the truck's capabilities.
It really shocked, no pun intended, a lot of the population about a lot of the performance metrics.
But delays caused the original timeline to slip. 5 years later, the semi has finally arrived.
We're incredibly excited tonight to actually deliver our first production Tesla semi trucks. And we're looking forward to actually delivering our first production trucks to PepsiCo. Yeah, sorry for the delay.
Omitted from the event, though, were details around the economics, million-mile guarantee, and autopilot features announced at the original 2017 unveiling.
When Elon Musk introduced the Tesla Semi, it was a big deal. It felt like this was a revolutionary moment for trucking. Fast forward 5 years, when they delivered the Tesla Semi to PepsiCo, it was actually a much different sort of experience. It felt like they were dialing it in. They had promised these things and were going to deliver them, but it just didn't feel like it had the hype that we had a couple of years ago.
The trucks Pepsi received don't have autonomous features activated yet.
The autonomous functionality of Tesla is not spec'd for these vehicles. They have the hardware capability. We'll get to that down the road as an additional capability.
When it was announced, the truck was touted to have an industry-leading 500-mile range.
500-mile range. And by the way, it's 500 miles at maximum weight at highway speed.
There have been some initial reports that they can't handle the weight or the distance that was initially promised. And so it's more of a wait and see.
To start, Pepsi is delivering Frito-Lay products around 425 miles per charge. It's also delivering Pepsi out of its Sacramento warehouse on 100-mile daily routes, going directly to stores, and 300 to 400-mile runs to other warehouses.
The contents that are the trailer can weigh about 45,000 pounds is really the accepted weight. And potato chips are made of a lot of air. When we look at soda cans, aluminum, and liquids, these things weigh a lot, and they will weigh out.
Pepsi wouldn't speak to the price of the trucks, but it is estimated to cost around $180,000.
The cost benefit is still a bit of a question mark because I think the price new of an electric truck isn't quite settled yet. I think it's safe to assume that it'll be at least double the price of the equivalent diesel model.
First generation and early development has additional research funding and all that. That's where the partnership and support comes in. But ongoing, we believe there is a positive economic business case for electrifying the fleet.
But experts are predicting that electric trucks will be cheaper to operate over time.
Honestly, I don't really think you need to be an expert to predict that. It's quite simple. If you're curious how you could calculate this yourself, there's these things called search engines that allow you to search for information on the internet, and you can search for things like, how many miles does a typical semi do in a year? What's the average cost per gallon of gasoline or diesel in the case of a diesel semi? How does that compare to the average cost of electricity to recharge? Do the same numbers. Then also look up the maintenance cost of a diesel truck per year and over a longer time period. Likewise, an electric vehicle. Also factor in the fewer moving parts in an electric vehicle. Even if there's not a huge amount of data on maintenance costs for electric semis today, you can also look at the maintenance costs of an internal combustion engine vehicle, a passenger vehicle, versus an electric vehicle. A lot of that carries over. The payback period on these things is a matter of years. Everything after that is just cream on top. And it's absolutely no contest. I challenge you. Go look at the numbers, do the comparisons yourself. Don't take my word for it. Go fact check me. As I said, you literally don't need to be an expert. You just need to know how to use the internet and a search engine to do some comparisons. The case makes itself.
When you take everything into account, a diesel truck will be 20% more expensive than a Tesla Semi per mile.
If you have a predictable charging cost, you can eliminate the expense of fuel and the more volatile pricing that comes along with fuel.
The big cost savings that a lot of people are seeing as they transition to EVs is that the amount of maintenance is significantly lower than traditional vehicles. Obviously, many fleets are thinking about it from that perspective. That total lifetime cost is significantly better.
Diesel vehicle storage tanks are cheaper and the fuel's more expensive. Electricity's more affordable, batteries are more expensive. There's always a constant dynamic between those two, right? And so we like to diversify our portfolio of solutions.
Starting in 2019, Frito-Lay has been transforming its Modesto facility to demonstrate the sustainable benefits of zero and near zero emission technologies.
This project has delivered a 91% reduction in greenhouse gas, and we're using this as a showcase to then cascade to our other operations.
PepsiCo partnered with the California Air Resources Board to make it all happen, matching its $15.4 million in incentives to purchase vehicles, including Tesla semis, to add to its fleet of over 80,000 assets.
We developed what's called the Zero and Near Zero Emissions Freight Facilities Pilot Program back in the 2019 timeframe. And this Frito-Lay facility won one of those grants for a complete transformation of this facility to zero emissions.
We thought it would make a smart move to make the deposit, partner with Tesla. So we put a deposit down several years ago for 100 units when they first announced. We thought it would have great application. We had the experience from the last 10 years with other EV products.
Pepsi received its first Tesla semis in December and already has them in use.
It takes us a couple of weeks between upfitting, logoing, labeling, and driver training. We'll continue to scale that up where over the next several months, most of the drivers will be certified and trained to drive the Tesla vehicles.
The trucks have replaced routes previously being served by diesel.
This vehicle right here with a 400-mile range enables the driver to leave from Modesto and return home without stopping and charging anywhere along the route.
Interesting tidbit, he's claiming a 400-mile range. Tesla originally advertised a 300 and a 500-mile range. However, we heard earlier that PepsiCo was using one of these Tesla semis on a 425-mile route. Keeping in mind, at this point in time, the Tesla semis are actually using the 2170 cells as far as I'm aware, not the 4680 cells, which not only are more efficient, have higher energy density, but overall lower weight for the amount of kilowatt hours. My best guess here, and I don't know, it's still early days, Tesla may not quite have achieved the 500-mile range they intended because they're not actually using the 4680 cells yet. When that facility is ramped up at Austin, and Tesla is producing enough 4680s, those start going in the Tesla semis, I expect range on those vehicles will actually extend quite a bit. But it's interesting to hear this. It sounds like Tesla has initially fallen a little short of that 500-mile range. Keeping in mind, the terrain makes a big difference. If you've got a fairly flat drive versus a lot of ups and downs, will make a big difference.
Our average length of haul for over the road is about 425 miles. So we believe across the entire portfolio at Frito-Lay and beverages that the Tesla semis will meet our delivery needs based on our network.
To charge the trucks, Frito-Lay installed 4 megachargers, Tesla's latest charging technology.
What you can see behind me are our 4 Tesla megachargers. They're capable of charging 750 kilowatts. These trucks here take about an hour to charge, which will give us about 400 miles of range.
The local utilities, the Tesla infrastructure team, we had to bring additional power into the site.
Although Pepsi wouldn't allow us to interview the drivers, O'Connell says feedback has been positive.
They like not needing to fuel the vehicles, right? They come in, plug them in, and can leave them, and they like the overall performance.
In addition to the Tesla semis, Frito-Lay Modesto is also using electric trucks from BYD and Peterbilt.
We have 6 of these Peterbilt electrified route trucks that are charged on site and used by our sales team to deliver our product to any of our stores in the community here in Modesto.
We have several hundred of those vehicles in several locations that
Probably goes without saying, but in case you haven't figured it out, these are much shorter range electric vehicles. Maybe they'll mention the range in a moment, but these are for much shorter trips.
We've implemented.
The company is also using compressed natural gas trucks.
This is a fully operational Class 8 CNG vehicle. We have 37 of them in operations here in Modesto. We have the same complement of range that you would see in any diesel tractor.
Competition in the electric truck space is heating up. As the Tesla Semi enters service, it comes at a time when several truck manufacturers are embracing the transition to electric and alternative fuels.
All the traditional diesel truck manufacturers also have electric truck offerings. So your Freightliners, Kenworths, Peterbilts, Volvos, Max, International, they all have electric trucks that are out there already.
Volvo just recently launched its VNR electric semi, a Class 8 truck with a 565 kilowatt battery capable of up to 275 miles of range.
So as you can see, the competition is coming all over itself. I don't want to disparage the efforts from Volvo and other automotive manufacturers and semi-manufacturers. However, we've just heard the range on this competing electric semis in the high 200s, whereas Tesla Semi, even if they've fallen short of their 500-mile initial target, is still in the 400s. Now, in fairness, the vast majority of semi trips are actually fairly short. I believe something like 80% are under 300 miles, maybe under 250 miles. So this Volvo truck will address many of those. This is why Tesla originally had a 300-mile version of their Tesla Semi as well as the 500. The 300 will actually suit many applications. But at this point in time, in terms of electric semis, if you want maximum range, Tesla's literally the only game in town.
Daimler has announced plans to develop its own heavy-duty electric truck, the Mercedes-Benz e-Actros Long Haul, that will have a range of around 310 miles.
We hear plans from a so-called competitor who have announced they're not delivering already, they haven't manufactured already, they have announced plans to make an electric vehicle whose range still falls dramatically short of Tesla's now available semi.
Freightliner, also a part of Daimler, has the e-Cascadia, a Class 8 semi with a 315 and 475 kilowatt version offering up to 250 miles of range.
Again, falling dramatically short of the range Tesla offers with their semi.
One of the advantages that other OEMs have over Tesla is that they know how to sell into the over-the-road trucking business and into the Class 8 environment.
This is true. However, one of the advantages Tesla has is having the most financially compelling offering and the longest available range for an electric vehicle. You might even say that what Tesla offers is so good it sells itself. Just pointing that out.
They've been doing it for years. They have a lot of experience. They know what fleets want. They know how they spec trucks. They know what drivers want. They have maintenance networks that exist across the country. They're just much better positioned today than what Tesla is to sell into this environment.
But even with so much activity in the space, it's still in early stages.
To introduce an electric vehicle that can solve the mission that's required of these vehicles, it takes many years, many designs, and a lot of testing and a substantial amount of investment. We're in the very early part of that cycle, and it's going to take a few years before we see these vehicles become commercially viable.
For trucking to go fully electric, it will require significant charging infrastructure development.
There's a huge amount of infrastructure that needs to be built. We think about it as the kind of infrastructure that gets built once a century. You had the railroads 2 centuries ago, you had the National Highway Network a century ago, and the scale is very similar to that.
Charging sites for heavy-duty trucks are much more demanding than your average EV.
If you have 20 semi-trucks charging all at one time, that's almost the same amount of power that it would take to power 20 big box stores. Think of that kind of scale of power required. The reliability is also very important. Fleet, for them, time is money, and they have to know that their vehicles will be able to move when they want them to.
Electric trucks also have a weight problem. Compared to diesel, they're much heavier, impacting the total load that they can transport.
The total weight, and that includes the truck, trailer, and the cargo, is 80,000 pounds in the United States. They have allowed, through some of the new regulation, for electric vehicles to go to 82,000 pounds, but that's the maximum gross weight that a vehicle can have.
For Tesla, scaling manufacturing of its new truck will be an uphill battle.
We'll be ramping up semi-production through next year. As everyone knows at this point, it takes about a year to ramp up production. We're tentatively aiming for 50,000 units in 2024 for Tesla Semi in North America.
That sounds extremely high.
By the way, the dude's right. Tesla's aspirational goal of 50,000 semis produced next year, that would be a monumental achievement. FYI, if Tesla does that and sells those 50,000, which they will, assuming they can produce them, about $10 billion in revenue. Not bad.
I think that 240,000 Class 8 trucks built total, Freightliner builds maybe 50,000 of those. So they're talking about competing with the big dogs in the existing commercial truck space.
Which would definitely be the first time Tesla has ever competed with any of the big dogs in any vehicle category, right?
To meet this ambitious goal, the company just announced it will expand its gigafactory in Nevada with a new 100 gigawatt-hour cell factory and a high-volume factory to manufacture the Semi.
The numbers I saw, maybe 500 this year will be built. 500 this year, I can definitely see. 50,000 in 2024, I guess we'll have to wait to see on that one.
Despite the progress being made, not all trucking can go emission-free.
If you look at diesel in terms of the power you can produce in the engine, on a weight basis, it produces far more power than what an electric powertrain produces. So because of those trade-offs, you're effectively dealing with these compromises that you don't have to make with diesel.
Eventually, though, regulations may force most freight operations to abandon diesel.
As I said, economics will force companies to abandon diesel vehicles. Not quite there, but remember, EVs are still very new technology. The cost of the batteries, the energy density, the efficiency, everything is going to continue to improve over time, making the economic case, which is already a no-brainer, even more of a no-brainer over time.
More stringent EPA regulations are coming out. There's going to be another level of diesel emissions regulations going into effect in 2027. This is going to be an all-of-the-above solution to meet EPA requirements. So we'll see some hydrogen fuel cell trucks out there. We'll see plenty of natural gas trucks out there, probably.
In the U.S., California has been one of the most aggressive states in driving this.
California has a regulation called Advanced Clean Trucks, which requires manufacturers to sell an increasing proportion of their sales as zero emissions, and ultimately getting to fully zero emissions by 2045 in all sectors of the heavy-duty trucking industry.
And with some of the country's largest ports, it is putting significant pressure on the industry to adapt.
It is the epicenter of North American import and export supply chain. And so what that means is that if California forces the industry to go carbon neutral and eliminate the internal combustion engine, it means that automotive manufacturers and truck manufacturers have zero recourse against that. They will have to do this because if they don't, they won't be able to sell vehicles into the industry, into one of the most important markets in the entire world.
Operationalizing any type of fleet portfolio, electrified, natural gas, renewable, diesel, there are challenges, but you can really make it all work without making as big a trade-offs as people think.
The next 5 to 10 years, you'll start to see a pretty significant inflection in the S-curve for adoption, especially for commercial vehicles, given that total cost of operation is significantly more beneficial than ICE vehicles. I'd say by the end of the decade, I would say at least 50% of commercial fleets would be electrified.
We know we have the technology and we have the policies in place. It's just a matter of getting the coordination to happen and continuing to make progress.
You got to give Elon Musk credit. This guy promises an enormously exciting future with really transformational technologies, and he's a world-class visionary that really is trying to set the tone for everything, and he's put everybody on notice, and eventually they may get there. We may get to a point where we actually see the performance metrics that he's promised and the economics that he's promised.
He said may get there. Just wanted to make a correction. Will get there. Just a matter of time.
Not there yet.
So to summarize, the Tesla Semi is a real truck, currently in real consumers' hands, actually operating on real roads, not just going downhill, under its own propulsion, allegedly. And this is a watershed moment. There is nothing else in the marketplace or even coming that has range close to Tesla's Semi. Even though it appears Tesla's fallen a little bit short of their 500-mile range based on the 2170 cells, the 4680 cells are likely to fill that gap once they ramp up at Austin and the Tesla Semis being produced transition to those cells. The most important thing to understand about the Tesla Semi, or any electric semi, but of course we know Tesla is in a league of their own, is that these things are literal no-brainers. You literally need to be stupid not to replace diesel semi-trucks with Tesla electric semis or something comparable. The unit economics, the total cost of ownership, is significantly lower on an electric semi-truck versus diesel. The purchase price initially may be a little bit higher, maybe meaningfully higher, could be twice as much, but the payback period, because of the constant operation, the total miles driven per year, and the much lower ownership costs, not just in terms of recharging, but also maintenance costs, means these things are literal money printers. The penny may not have dropped within every business that has a fleet of semi-trucks yet, but mark my words, people in this industry talk. The folks at Pepsi, Frito-Lay, are going to be talking to other colleagues. Hey bro, we're running these Tesla semis. They're so cheap to operate. Look, the numbers are insane. You should get some. And they will. Tesla's going to be supply constrained, production constrained for years to come on yet another product, this time the Tesla Semi. As I said, it's an absolute no-brainer. Speaking of no-brainers, what an awesome segue, by the way. I bet you didn't see this coming. I think it's time you finally caved in and tried Athletic Greens AG1. Many regular viewers of the channel have heard me mention this stuff day after day after day after day, and the reason I'm doing it is not to make you mad and butthurt, but to try and help, to really change my life positively. But hey, today, don't take my word for it. Instead, let's hear what some viewers of the channel have to say after starting Athletic Greens AG1 themselves. On screen now. Thanks for all the AG1 pumps. Seriously, you're welcome. See, for every one person that gets mad every time I promote this stuff, there's plenty of people that are actually thanking me for all the pumps. I finally bought it about a month ago and I've been taking it every morning since. And I cannot stress enough how amazing I feel. So amazing, this viewer can't even spell correctly. Definitely something to consider. Or how about this? Yes, thank you. AG1 works as stated. Being interestingly delicious also helps. There's a few women that have described me as interestingly delicious. I'm just kidding. I'm a virgin who lives in my mum's basement. I can attest that AG1 is really what he is saying it is. Just means your daily life is better. In a nutshell, couldn't have said it better myself. And one more. Completely agree with the feedback others left on AG1. Been taking it for just over a month. Feel amazing. I'm working out harder, feel less mind fog, feel sharper. It's also helping with the afternoon drop off in energy. The exact same thing happened to me. I was really fatigued in the afternoons a couple of years ago. Within a few weeks of starting AG1, no more afternoon fatigue. And I think this final sentence really sums things up and speaks volumes. Keep pumping it. I sure fucking will again. I know people get mad, but I really care that much. I know it's going to positively impact most people that try it. This is why I'm pushing it so much. So don't worry, I'll continue to pump the absolute fuck out of this. You're welcome in advance. Now, I don't have a whole lot more to add. You guys have probably heard the whole spiel now. There's a million reasons to be taking Athletic Greens AG1 every day. 75 high quality vitamins and minerals, whole food source nutrients, adaptogens, prebiotics, probiotics, things to help with gut health, digestion, which can affect mood, energy, you name it. And if you use the link in the pinned comment or head to athleticgreens.com/SMR, you can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. And do me a favor, when you've been taking AG1 consistently every morning for at least a few weeks, leave me a comment or send me a DM to let me know how you're feeling. As you saw today, this stuff is so good. I don't even need to convince you. Just read the comments from people that have picked up AG1, started taking it, and are sharing their own results. You literally can't make this shit up. So the question is, with the 90-day money-back guarantee, this guy, plus a bunch of viewers of the channel, swearing by this stuff, saying it does what it says, works as intended, this effect, that effect, I feel a lot better, and so on, makes daily life better. How many more times will you need to hear me suggesting that you try Athletic Greens AG1, 90-day money-back guarantee, literally nothing to lose, before you finally cave in and start feeling and performing your best? Head to athleticgreens.com/SMR or use the link in the pinned comment. And lastly, if you'd like to unlock a load of exclusive content, we're almost at 300 exclusive videos and counting. Head over to Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment, and I'll see you over there. Love ya.